First, I want to preface that I am not against sororities, fraternities, or any other social group or organization. Clearly, these groups do a lot of good for communities and provide benefits to their members. But we know that there have been some high-profile cases of harsh initiation or hazing by some groups. This research seeks to understand why groups may engage in severe initiation practices. What is the motivation behind these practices, and can we understand them from a social psychological perspective? Cognitive dissonance theory may provide some answers. The theory is that if we engage in effort, go through initiation, jump through hoops, expend time and effort to gain entry into a group, but then find out that the group isn't as great as we anticipated, this could arouse dissonance. Essentially, our evaluation that the group isn't great is inconsistent with the fact that we worked so hard to be a member. One way to resolve this inconsistency is to convince ourselves that the group really is great. The idea is that harsh initiation serves to ensure member satisfaction and loyalty. In a laboratory test of this, researchers manipulated the severity of group initiation. All participants were females, and they were told that the study involved group discussions of sexuality. They were told that they would need to be able to openly and freely talk about sexual behavior. And to ensure that they would not be embarrassed or overly inhibited in these discussions, they were asked to read some materials out loud. So this was the initiation manipulation. In the mild condition, participants were asked to read a list of formal words related to sex. These were accepted, medical terms. In the severe condition, they were asked to read 2 erotic pornographic passages and 12 obscene words. All participants were then told that they would be replacing a member of an existing discussion group that had to drop out of the study, and that for their first session, they would just listen to the discussion without participating. They then listened to a very boring discussion of animal reproduction and were asked to evaluate the discussion and the group. Participants who were randomly assigned to the severe initiation condition rated the discussion and the group more favorably. They had more positive attitudes towards the discussion and towards the group after going through the severe initiation process. And so the general idea is that if we expend effort to obtain membership into a group or to have some experience or acquire some possession, that could influence how we evaluate that end state, membership in that group, that experience, or that product. That if it doesn't live up to our expectations, that could arouse dissonance. And in order to reduce that dissonance, we have to then kind of reevaluate that product or that group to be more consistent with the amount of effort that we expended to acquire it or to gain membership. And so the idea is that if people wait in line for hours for that new iPhone and it's really not all that great, they would have to convince themselves that it is great and wonderful to justify waiting so long to get it. And so think about how you could use this to your advantage. Of course, we know about kind of the basic norm of reciprocity, that we could do a favor for someone and then they may feel indebted to us, and it could increase the likelihood that they do a favor for us in return in the future. But we could flip that around on its head. And what's called the Ben Franklin effect. And it's called the Ben Franklin effect for a story that Ben Franklin wrote about when he was a Pennsylvania legislator. And so he talks about an opponent legislator, this guy who was kind of always butting heads with him and going up against him. And Franklin thought, I need to get this guy on my side. And so how am I going to do that? He thought, well, I could flatter him, I could try to butter him up, but he's a really smart guy, and I think that he would see through that and see what I'm trying to do. And so this guy happened to have a rare book collection, and knowing that, Ben Franklin asked to borrow this rare book. The opponent legislator lent it to Ben Franklin, who kept it for a period of time and then returned it with this very nice thank you note. Thank you so much for going out of your way to lend me this book. You don't know how much this means to me, etc., etc. And Franklin talks about how after that event, that they were kind of colleagues and friends. So he was able to win this individual's affections by asking for a favor. So one technique could be that we ask someone for a favor in order to change their attitudes towards us, that people may have to justify that effort. Why would I do a favor for someone that I don't like? That doesn't make sense. And so if I agree to do a favor for someone, afterwards I may think, well, I must like this person, right? Otherwise, why would I have done them this favor?